Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Bacon. Welcome to the show, y'all. Check this out. When Skip comes out of the tent that him and his newfound mom were staying in, he's looking for him, but they were looking for him. It was two of them, two men. And Skip didn't play. He was angry. He was upset. So he ran at him, and he said, "Did y'all do this?" And both of them looked at him and, look, these are grown men, so he's still a kid to them. And they said, "Where's the money? If you don't give us the money, the same thing that happened to her is going to happen to you." He shot out. He snapped. See, Skip in the penitentiary was known as one of those dudes that can handle a pocket knife. Yeah. Oh, he was fine. And he learned to handle that pocket knife from his homeless mother. Yes. She taught him. She taught him. And when he ran at him, he stabbed and slashed and stabbed and slashed both of them. Yeah, they got their hands on him, but he was moving and shaking so fast that he was cutting them in ways that where they couldn't take all that. If he wasn't slashing, he was poking them. You know? And he put it on both of them. And before you knew it, both of them were struggling to stand up. He had hit them in places that they were bleeding out so fast that, because their heart was racing trying to rob him, they were bleeding out so fast that they couldn't even run. So they both lay there in front of him, collapsing, begging him to stop. But he was enraged. That same rage that he displayed on that man that he beat in the homeless camp that was trying to assault him, it was 10 times worse on both of them. But this time, he had a knife. He had a weapon. And he stabbed and he stabbed and he stabbed until they were done. They were done. And when he stopped, he sit there and he cried and he cried and he cried and he just screamed. And when he screamed out, she woke up. She came out of the tent and she saw what he had done. And she just looked at him and she said, "You gotta go. You can't stay here." And she said, "You're gonna be okay, but you can't stay here." And he didn't want to leave her. He said, "I'm not going anywhere. I'm not leaving." And the police were on their way because, again, somebody had ran and got him. And when they got there, he was covered in blood and still had the knife in his hand. And he gave him the knife, and they asked him what happened, and he told them, "They beat my mother. I was defending my mother." Now his mind was gone. This is his mom now. This is his mom. And she looked at him and she hugged him and she told the officers he was trying to help me. They saw that she was bruised and battered. They took her to the hospital. They called the coroner. You know what I'm saying? They took the two bodies on down and all this and that, and they took him to juvenile. Now, at that time, they didn't know if that was his mom or not. They didn't know. They had no clue, but when they put him on TV and told what happened, they mentioned that he was in the homeless camp with his mother. And his grandmother recognized him and she called down there and she told him that that woman that you're talking about on TV, that's not his mother. So she came down to the police station and she told him everything that was happening and what had happened to him about losing his mom and his dad. And then they started to piece the story together. And they went to the juvenile facility and they talked to him and he told them that she's his mother and that he had lost his other mother. He wasn't so far gone that he didn't realize what was happening. You know what I'm saying? He just saw it as his mother. And he was protecting her because he couldn't protect his other mother when that other vehicle hit them. And he was struggling. But here's the thing. In all of that, in all of what happened, and all the things that had happened to him, they still charged him. They still charged him, y'all. And they still flipped him. Flipped him like a flapjack. on a hot griddle. I'm telling you. I'm telling you now. And when the trial came up and everybody was testifying and telling what happened about his tragic upbringing and all the things that happened to him that sent him spiraling down that road, right? They all talked about how he was a good kid and how these things, you know what I'm saying, should have been avoided, and if he'd have just got some help and all of these types of things, right, he would have been okay. And then when his grandmother got on the stand, she told him the truth. She said, I couldn't take no more. I couldn't take no more. After a couple of years, he wasn't getting better. And when he just left, I let him go. And she said, I regret that. Because by me giving up on him, she said he had given up on her. And by him giving up on her, he went in search for somebody to love him. And he found somebody to love him. And he ended up trying to defend her, and it cost him everything. And I asked him, I said, Skip, I said, do you regret what you did? And he said, yeah, I regret what I did. I do. I wish I wouldn't have never done that. But he said, man, I was so out of control, I didn't even realize why. And every time I'm looking at TV and I see something with juveniles going through this and going through that, he said, it reminds me of what I went through. Because he said, don't nobody know or care about the backstory that put them kids in the streets to do the things that they're doing. He said, don't nobody care about that. They forget about that. All they want to focus on is what I did out of that trauma. The pain that I was feeling pushed me to do that. And I'm looking at him and I'm saying, bruh, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. But do you still believe that you did the right thing? He told me, he said, Joe T, I know I didn't do the right thing. But you got to think about it. I was a kid. I was thinking with a child's mind. I did what I did. And I regret it to this day. He said, but they were trying to rob me too. Don't forget that. They were grown men trying to rob me. Now, why am I telling y'all this story? I'm telling you this story because I want you to understand that people go through stuff. And I'm not saying that it's an excuse to do things to people, the trauma that you suffer, the situations in your life. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is that whatever you go through, get some help. If you have a child that's going through something, they didn't just start doing that. Something happened. Somebody influenced their decision. Somebody got in their ear, or they got it on their own watching TV, video. I don't know how it happens in all cases, but I know this. Kids are not born rotten. They become rotten. They become disorderly. They become afraid. They become violent. They're not born that way. It happens over time. And when it happens, people tend to forget how it happened. They just focus on what they do because of their pain. And they want them away from them. Like Skip's grandmother wanted him away from her. She didn't know what else to do. She didn't know what else to do. But when she sat on that stand and she told these people that she regretted what she had done by giving up on him, that don't bring those two men back. That don't negate the man that he beat at the homeless place that was trying to rob him or assault him. That don't negate the armed robbery that he did. That don't negate the drugs that he was out there selling. Don't none of that take that away. But what all of those things have in common are his pain written all over him. Him trying to figure out how to say, help me. Well, let me tell y'all something. Stop waiting for a child to ask you for help. and just give it to them. Love on them. And you can't love on them if you grow tired of them or you are afraid of them. The same child that you say that you are afraid of now or tired of now, remember when they were 6 months, 18 months standing on your knees and laughing and playing, and how beautiful they were and how much you loved them and how the hopes that you had for them were high. Remember that. Remember that. And then go talk to them. Go tell them you love them. And sometimes, yeah, you might have to get a little tough. You're the parent, not them. Take them guns away from them. Tell them you're not going to put up with that. And if you need some help, go get some other adults to help you. But don't let them go out there and conclude with the little feeble minds that they have, that don't nobody love them. Because when you're not having somebody in your life that loves you or showing you that love, or you interpret it wrong, then you're going to get the opposite of love. You're going to put out a lot of hate. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.